Hey everyone, it's Belinda. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about Springboard's Data Science Bootcamp. I actually just finished it. I started November 2020, so right in between COVID actually. I decided to take the leap, do the program, and I remember when I was actually researching data science boot camps, data science programs, Springboard wasn't one that had many reviews. So I figured now that I've completed it, it's come full circle. I wanted to share my experience, what I liked, what I didn't like. Did I get a job ultimately? And was it worth it? Because a lot, data science is one of those things where I thought about actually for a very long time, a couple years before I actually had the courage to make the jump. So without further ado, let's just dive right in. So why Springboard? When I was looking at programs, there are more and more out there. There's a bunch, right? So a lot of coding boot camps. A lot of them are actually offering data science curriculums now as well. Like some of the more popular ones, General Assembly, Full Stack Academy, like lots of them, right? Some bigger ones, some smaller ones. But what really drew me towards Springboard compared to some of the larger, more, I guess, more well-known ones is the time commitment, if I were being honest. We were in the middle of a pandemic. A lot of programs required you to do the program full time. And I wasn't in a position where I felt comfortable quitting my full time job. Like, I was just like, I can't be jobless for 3 months, especially in the middle of a pandemic when everyone was getting let go left and right. That was a no go for me. So Springboard offered a part time option. They are also about half the cost. So I think with most programs, they're about $20,000 to $25,000. Lots of different financing options. Springboard allows that too. But what really drew me towards them is also they were half the cost. It's $10,000, I believe. And they also offer a few different scholarship options, right? They offer scholarships for women, people in the military, a few different things there. So it was a lower cost of entry. A little bit more background. I didn't come from a technical background. I really am trying to make a full career switch. So that was a huge thing too. It's like I didn't know if I was going to truly enjoy it. So having a $25,000, $30,000 cost investment plus no full-time job was very, very scary for me. So Springboard basically allowed me to do it part-time. It was lower cost. I felt like it was still something that I can try, and I didn't feel too guilty about it if I didn't make it. Um, they also have live mentors. So when you do the program, you are paired with a one-on-one mentor, which was really attractive to me. I've always wanted like a mentor where I can go to for career advice, life advice, going in the right or wrong direction, project advice. So that was like, hey, like, that was a huge thing. Some of the other like online courses, if you just took like MOOC courses or Udacity or something like that, you don't get a mentor assigned, right? So that was big for me. And then last but not least is the job guarantee. So Springboard does have a job guarantee that, when you finish the program, you're guaranteed to land a job, in a 6 month time frame. I think during COVID, they did extend that time frame up to a year. So you have up to a year before the job guarantee kicks in. But that was also, refreshing for me to know that like if I don't get placed in a job in a role that is data focused at the end of the program, if I finish all the requirements and I do what they say, if I still don't get a job, at least I'll get my tuition back. I'll get that $10,000 back. So it's a combination of all of these things that really drew me towards Springboard. So I decided to take the leap. Now, before I get into what the program is like, I thought I'd spend a few minutes to talk about why data science and is this right for me? Because what I realized is that it's not quite as simple as just like, hey, this sounds cool. It sounds like you make a lot of money. Let me give it a try. No, you actually really have to like what you're doing. Not only is it like hard, there's a lot to learn. It's a field that is growing and growing. There's new technology all the time and it's just getting bigger and bigger. So you have to like that aspect of it. You have to like learning and you have to actually really like the job. But secondly, you're not going to make six figures right off of the boot camp. Like that's a little bit unrealistic. I'm not going to say it never happens. I'm sure it does. But more often than not, the people who are getting those jobs probably were had a technical background anyway, or they, completed a college degree in programming and decided they want to do data science instead of being a full stack programmer or something like that, right? Like, if you are changing industries that's from something completely unrelated to this, your first job out of the program is not going to be making six figures. More likely, it's going to be closer to like the $40,000 to $60,000 range, depending on where you are. Location makes a big difference in your salary range, right? But so that's one thing. Like, you're not going to be making big money right off the bat. Secondly, it's really hard. You have to learn a lot, like a lot of stuff is crammed in, and you have to continue to learn. So you have to enjoy what you're doing. And then I think the third thing to do to really consider is, are you ready to go back to school? Because at first I was like, hey, it's a boot camp, it's part-time. I did fairly well in college. I probably, can't be too difficult, right? But like it really is like a mindset shift. You're working all day, pandemic or not, like you're sitting in front of a computer or not, you are working a full-time job. And then all of a sudden, after you log off, you still have to spend 10 to 20 hours a week, like every night from 7 o'clock until like 10 or 11, you're reading, you're doing coding exercises and things like that. So it is a mental shift. Like, instead of just hanging out, watching Netflix, thinking, chilling out, not thinking about anything, you are now dedicating this time and using your mental energy even more. Or you have to wake up early. Instead of like logging on at 8 a.m. on your laptop, you wake up at like 6 o'clock to get a couple hours in because you couldn't finish the program the night before. Things like that. So I would say, if you are considering a boot camp, regardless of if it's Springboard or anything else, or if you're considering data science in general, you really have to answer these questions. Like, do I like the field? Have I done enough research? Am I okay with potentially getting a pay cut to start in a completely new industry? All right. So enough of that. Let's actually dive into what the program was like. So Springboard is more of a self-paced program. And I say that meaning, like, you go in, you log in, and there's like all the full curriculum, right? You can click through all of them. Each unit has different things that you need to cover. Some of them are articles, some of them are actual exercises. And the exercises, they actually use a separate platform where they teach you how to code. It's a little bit more interactive. It's Data Camp, actually. They use Data Camp. I don't think that's like unknown, like, you can probably just Google it and find that out. But anyway, so they set you up with a Data Camp account, and you log in, and there's, set courses that they tell you to take, right? There's like the intro to Python, there's SQL, there's like image recognition, like whatever it is, whatever the unit is on. And you basically complete those courses. It's guided, you read what you're supposed to do. There's some exercises for the code, you pass, the mini challenges or whatever. And then usually at the end, alongside, there's like a bunch of articles, right? A lot of it is just like Wall Street Journal articles or data science, towards datascience.com articles, like things that they find and that makes sense as part of the curriculum that they make you go through. And then at the end of the unit, there's usually a task that you would perform in a Jupyter notebook. It's some sort of analysis, some sort of model you have to build, or whatever it may be that's related to everything that you just learned. But I guess what I'm trying to emphasize here is that it is a curriculum in a sense that, they tell you exactly what you need to learn in what order, but all of the information it's not necessarily theirs, right? There are articles that are for the public. If you knew where to look, you'd be able to find it. Data Camp is, you can just sign up for a Data Camp account. All the courses are there. Really what you're paying for is the curation of the content that they're saying, hey, this is what's important and this is the order that you should learn it in, is what I realized from going through the experience, which for me was good because I've tried looking into, learning how to code or learning how to do these things, and I get so lost in like knowing where to focus my energy. So I think paying for the curation is not necessarily a bad thing. But if you're one of those learners that don't need that, then a bootcamp probably isn't right for you, especially not Springboard's bootcamp, because you don't even get that instructor-led information. Like, there's no instructors. Your mentors are there to help you and guide you, but they pretty much just follow along the curriculum and help clarify any questions you have. So they take on a role that's more like a TA than anything. All right, so what next? You can extend the program. So with COVID, and even without COVID, in terms of timing, they do offer you an extension. I think the full program, you're supposed to finish it within 6 months part-time. It is doable. It's very much doable, especially if you breeze through the first few units. The first couple of units are, introductory and, aren't as heavy in the challenges or in the notebooks that you have to finish. So you can breeze through those fairly quickly. But I will say it is still a large time commitment. You have to, set aside time every week to focus on it. I ended up actually taking a break and finished my program in 9 months instead of 6 months. And that's because I decided that I had some stuff going on with work. I purchased a home, like all these things. I'm just like, okay, I need a little bit of a break. So you do have that option. You don't have to, jam it in specifically, but I will say that the faster you do it, the better it is. And the reason is because that gives you more time to focus on your job search, and practice and have more times with your mentors to not focus on the curriculum, but instead focus on your career, which I think is very, very valuable. The last couple of things I will mention about the program is that you get a lot of mini projects, right? That you can, that you have on your GitHub or GitLab at the end that you can talk towards when you go through interviews. But the thing that I found actually very helpful is that you get 2 full capstone projects that the topic is completely of your choosing, which is really nice. So the advice is always like, hey, choose a topic that you enjoy, regardless of if it's like, specifically work related, professional related. Like I know some people who did theirs on video games or Pokemon or like, rating ramen and things like that, but there's still value to the project itself. But the fact that they were specifically interested in it or they were tied to it, made it more compelling when they talked through it. A really, really strong one is if you're in a field already, like if you're in the medical field and you do a project that is medical devices or like medicine related or healthcare related, then that's great. Like it's basically tying your past to like where you want to go in the future. And that gives you so much more to talk about during your interviews. It's a little bit more consistent. But the other thing I've realized is when I was going through my interviews is not a lot, some of the other programs, some of the other boot camps, when I asked the interviewers like, hey, like, what's the advice you can give, or mentors, what's the advice you can give? I've heard this response more than once, so I believe it, is that they don't want to see another project that's a bootcamp project. Like every single student goes through this a couple of bootcamp projects and it's the same all the time. And he's like, I've seen like 10 of these. I don't want to see another one of these on a resume. So just make sure, like when you're choosing your project, your capstone project, Google common bootcamp projects and make sure you're not doing one of those because you want to stand out. You don't want to like, mix in with the pack. So just like the opportunity to do a project that's, truly and uniquely your own is a huge draw, I think, compared to some of the other programs, at least from what I've heard. I haven't done any other programs, so I can't say for sure, but from what I've heard, that's great. All right. So last couple of things to touch on. The most important. Did I get a job and was it worth it? So yes, I did get a job. And I got a job actually before I finished the program. And I think partly this is because I did the extension, I extended the program. But yes, I did get a job. I got a job probably 2 months after I started the job search. But I'm not going to go into detail here because I think there are a lot of nuances to that as well. And I want to make a fuller, longer video to explain my process, what I did, and how I eventually got the job. But the important thing is, yes, I did. And there are other people who did as well. Other people in the same cohorts before me that got job offers. It's a huge range between like, salary and like what they ended up doing, their title, things like that. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. And so that kind of brings us to, was the program worth it? I said this a little bit earlier, but I do think it's true. At least for me, the curation of content is really important because, when you're trying to learn on your own, there's so much to know. like there's literally like you can go into one section and go on for months and months and still not know it all. So understanding what is most important, what are the high level is great. So and I think that applies to all boot camps, not just Springboard specifically. Was it worth it in a sense of, like for the value that I got? Yes, but keep in mind that you are getting what you paid for. I paid half the cost, $10,000. I didn't do it full time. And I noticed that when I'm working now in my role, there are a lot of things that like I wish I dug deeper in. I have the high level knowledge, but I don't have the confidence to be like, this is the way to do it. Like there's still a lot of things I have to look up. There are definitely other people on my team who, came from boot camps as well and know a lot more, it feels like. So if I were to do over, like if money wasn't an issue or if time wasn't an issue, like I would say, go to a full-time program. You really do need to commit full time to make a career transition. But at the same time, that's not realistic for everyone, right? Like not everyone has $20,000 laying around or can quit their full-time job. So I would say that if those two were the ultimate deciding factors, like you just physically, financially cannot do that, then I think Springboard is a great option. But keep in mind that you really have to like know this is what you want. Other options I have considered since then is actually grad school. At first I was like, hey, like people are getting jobs from boot camps. Like, is grad school really necessary? But what I've realized is grad school is, especially if you want to be really successful in this field. As I mentioned before, like you're starting off entry level, you're probably making 50, 60K maybe. You're not at a data scientist title. So, if you want to get there, yes, you can definitely work your way up. It'll take a few years. The alternative is to go to grad school. But, because I felt like I didn't know enough or know as much as some of my peers, there's already this pressure for me to learn more. Like, in order for me to succeed or to advance, I feel like I need to go to grad school. So I am seriously considering it at this time, if I were to stay in the field. So there are a few options. So that kind of brings up another point. Outside of boot camps, there are graduate programs that are, of course, part-time, that are online, and there are actually a couple that, are within that same price point as well. So if you are considering boot camps right now, haven't fully signed up, I would say consider some graduate programs. Like there are definitely out there. Just Google some that, are online and see if the prices make sense. Because I think, at least from my opinion, getting a graduate degree on your resume is much more impressive than getting a bootcamp certificate. So that is something I would do over. I would probably, if I was to start completely over, I would skip the bootcamp, go to grad school, assuming that, you get in and it's like similarly in price. But if you're unsure, you're making a career change, you don't know if this is going to be the way you want to go, but you want to try it out and see where it goes, I think Springboard is good. So I would say go for it. Okay, so just to wrap up, because I know it's a little bit of a long video now, couple things, tips, if you continue to decide to move forward, do the prep course. The data science prep course for Springboard is about $500. I ended up doing the prep course because you actually have to take a test in order to get into the full program. And I didn't have a coding background, so I failed the test. And they're like, okay, well, if you do the prep course, then you can retake the test and you're more likely to get in. That's the whole point. The prep course is to prepare you to pass the test. I found it very valuable. I did the prep course. I passed the exam. The $500 that you pay, for the prep course actually gets reapplied or credited to your full program. So like, basically you're getting the prep course for free if you know you want to do the full program. And if you do the prep course and you're like, damn, this sucks, like, and I don't get it, I still can't pass the entrance exam, then at least like it's $500 instead of $20,000 or $10,000. The other thing that I would do is learn more SQL. So with the data science career track, you get 1.5 units on SQL. But as I was interviewing, every single position that I applied for tested my SQL skills. There were a few early on that I went through the interviews and I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And I had to go on my own and take some more courses or side courses to make sure I passed some of the later interviews. My mentor told me this in the beginning, and I didn't listen to him, which I should have. You have to do a HackerRank challenge every week. Like that is mandatory because when you are interviewing, they do test you on your technical knowledge. And a lot of times they will use HackerRank or they will use another similar type of coding challenge platform. So you just have to get familiar with it and kind of see what are some of the common tests. And the only way to make it easier is to start early. Like I think the last few months I spent so much time on HackerRank doing challenges, in order to prepare myself. But if you start from the beginning, then you already are used to it and you don't, you're not in such a struggle towards the end. All right. So those are my few tips. If this is helpful, please let me know. Let me know your thoughts on if you decided to go with Springboard or if you decided to go with a different program, pros and cons. I haven't done some of the other ones, so please let me know your thoughts, and hopefully I'll share it with the larger community who is looking to go into data science. But I hope to make another video soon regarding how I actually approach my job search and how I eventually got my job. So keep a lookout for that one. But otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Bye.